In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 NBA games happening on January 27, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Detroit Pistons versus Denver Nuggets. The Detroit Pistons and Denver Nuggets square off on Tuesday at Ball Arena, and this one has a sneaky, chaotic feel to it. Detroit just handled the Kings, stumbled against the Rockets before that, and they have the Suns waiting next, which is not exactly a soft landing spot on the schedule. Even so, winning 17 of their last 24 games has this group walking with a little swagger, and you can feel that kind of rhythm when a team takes the floor. Denver is in a different groove, but still a solid one, coming off wins over the Wizards and the Bucks, with the Nets coming up after this matchup. They have taken 8 of their last 11, so their confidence is not fake either, even if it has been built in less than ideal circumstances. It is one of those spots where both sides can legitimately say, yeah, we have something working right now. And that usually makes for a fun handicap. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Detroit is almost fully stocked, with only Caris LeVert sidelined because of illness, which is a luxury this time of year. The Nuggets, on the other hand, have a long list, with Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, Cameron Johnson, Peyton Watson, and others ruled out, and that kind of injury sheet would wear on any locker room. So while the Pistons roll in with health and momentum and that dominant performance against the Kings still fresh, Denver is trying to keep its head above water with key pieces missing, even if the win column suggests they have coped pretty well so far. An easy win like that over Sacramento is exactly the sort of palate cleanser the East-leading Pistons needed after dropping that home game to the Rockets a few days earlier. Cade Cunningham lit it up with 29 points and 11 assists, acting like the engine and the steering wheel at the same time. But now the challenge is completely different as they head into altitude for a visit to the Nuggets. This is the first of 2 clashes, and it gives Detroit a clean chance to rewrite a pretty ugly head-to-head story, especially with so many Denver regulars sitting out. They have only 2 wins in the last 16 meetings against this team, and Denver has swept the previous 2 regular season series while taking the last 3 matchups by double digits. That is a rough history, no way around it. Still, a lot of that history becomes less useful when Jokic and Gordon are not in uniform. The Nuggets are obviously a different animal without their 3-time MVP, even though they have managed a 9-5 straight-up record in the 14 games he has missed this season. Jamal Murray is finally stringing together the kind of all-star level numbers people have expected from him, which matters a lot here, but it is fair to ask if that alone can crack the defensive effort Detroit is bringing right now. You look at those last 2 Nuggets outings and you see only 102 and 107 points scored against a mediocre Bucks team and a pretty poor Wizards squad, which feels a bit underwhelming for a group trying to compensate for missing stars. Then there is the home and road split, which quietly leans against Denver. They have covered just once in their last 4 games at Ball Arena, and in a slightly odd twist, they actually have more than 7 wins on the road compared with what they have put together at home this season. That is not a death sentence, but it does hint that this version of the Nuggets is not some automatic juggernaut at altitude, especially when half the rotation is in street clothes. Health, honestly, might be the biggest single factor on Tuesday. Detroit shows up with 1 name on the report, while Denver is patched together with 3 starters and multiple rotation players out of action. If the best team in the East cannot walk into that situation and win by at least 7, then they will have to spend some serious time in the film room asking themselves uncomfortable questions. And yet, there is always that tiny voice saying that a shorthanded contender can pull off a minor surprise at home, so it would not be shocking if Denver made this weird. Even so, with the run the Pistons are on and the sheer gap in available bodies, it feels like they are in a strong position to get out of Colorado with both the win and the cover at this kind of reasonable number. As our first pick for this matchup, the Detroit Pistons to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Pistons are putting up 117.4 points per game on 48% shooting from the field, which is not shy at all. They are allowing 110.1 points on 44.2% shooting, so their defense has been sturdy enough without completely strangling games. From deep, Detroit is hitting 35.3% of their threes and connecting on 74.7% at the free throw line, which is a bit uneven but still workable for a team that likes to attack in different ways. On the other side of the ball, they are holding opponents to 34.8% from long range and hauling in 46 rebounds per contest, numbers that suggest they can finish possessions while still living with a certain amount of perimeter trading. Denver brings its own flavor to the scoring profile. The Nuggets are averaging 120.7 points per game while shooting 49.6% from the field, which is the kind of efficiency that quietly piles up points even when things do not feel wildly explosive. Defensively, they are giving up 116.2 points on 46.8% shooting, so their style tends to invite a bit of back and forth rather than slow, grinding slugfests. They are one of the sharper three-point shooting teams statistically, sitting at 39.5% from downtown, and they are converting 81.8% of their free throws, which means trips to the line turn into real damage on the scoreboard, not wasted chances. They allow opponents to shoot 35% from three and secure 42.3 rebounds per game, which again points more to a flowing, trading punches type of environment than a suffocating defensive struggle. Put all of that together, and you get a picture of two offenses that can score efficiently and two defenses that, while not terrible, are not exactly choking the air out of games either. The percentages from the field, the accuracy from beyond the arc, and the free throw reliability, especially on Denver's side, all lean toward a rhythm where both teams find ways to put points on the board for most of the night. You can almost see stretches where the ball barely touches the rim, just because of how clean some of these statistical profiles are when they get rolling. So in a matchup like this, with these shooting splits and these scoring averages, it is pretty natural to lean toward another game where the total lands on the higher side of the fence rather than the lower. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Brooklyn Nets versus Phoenix Suns. The Brooklyn Nets and Phoenix Suns link up on Tuesday at the Mortgage Matchup Center, and this one has that odd mix of drama and inevitability you sometimes get late in a rough season for one side. Brooklyn is coming off losses to the Celtics and Clippers, with the Nuggets looming next on the schedule, and they have dropped 13 of their last 15 games, which tells you plenty about where their confidence is right now. Phoenix has not been perfect either, falling to the Hawks and Heat recently, and with the Pistons on deck, they are just trying to steady things after splitting their last 8 games. Here is the thing, the Nets are still doing the juggling act with their roster, missing Noah Clowney, Cam Thomas, and Haywood Highsmith again, so their rotation feels a little thin even before the ball goes up. On the other bench, the Suns have already ruled out Devin Booker, and Jalen Green is sitting there tagged as questionable with that hamstring issue, so they are hardly at full power themselves. Brooklyn has not managed to build any kind of real rhythm, and that heavy loss to the Clippers on Sunday looked like one of those games where one team is just outclassed from warm-ups to garbage time. Phoenix has actually been in a decent groove by comparison, but with Booker sidelined, it is fair to expect that scoring might not come quite as easily, even if the structure is still solid. The Nets, to be fair, are not completely hopeless in a spot like this, even if the form guide looks brutal. They have enough talent to spring an upset on the right night, especially if the threes fall early and the Suns take a while to adjust to life without their main scorer. But when you look at the big picture, Phoenix still has more reliable pieces than most of the weaker teams in the league, and Brooklyn keep throwing up performances that look like a team drifting toward the lottery. Honestly, the whole setup feels like one where the more organized, more stable group should eventually show it, especially on their own floor, even if the first few minutes get a little weird. The recent trend line only adds to that story. The Nets have dropped 5 straight, and the margin in those games has averaged 25.2 points, which is the kind of number you usually associate with tanking talk more than playoff talk. Meanwhile, the Suns, even with those questionable losses and the Booker injury, have quietly built a record of 30-14-2 against the spread, and with a cover rate of 68.1%, they sit as the most profitable team in the league for backers this season. You usually do not want to stand in front of a train like that if you can help it, especially not with a Brooklyn group that looks this overmatched most nights. Maybe the Nets catch fire early, maybe Porter Jr. gets hot and gives them a burst to start, but across 4 quarters, the home side still reads as the more trustworthy outfit to handle their business. As our first pick for this matchup, the Phoenix Suns to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Brooklyn Nets are averaging 107.9 points per game on 44.2% shooting from the field, which is not exactly explosive but also not completely lifeless. They are giving up 115.1 points on 49% shooting, and that defensive line tells you their games often tilt toward opponents getting comfortable looks. From beyond the arc, the Nets are hitting 34.3% of their threes, and they are converting 78.8% of their free throws, which is respectable enough to keep them from wasting too many trips once they do get fouled. On the other side of the ball, they allow opponents to shoot 38.3% from deep and they pull down 40 rebounds per game, numbers that hint at a defense that can be stretched on the perimeter and sometimes gives up second chances. The Phoenix Suns, by comparison, bring a scoring profile that sits a little higher across the board. They are putting up 114.2 points on 45.9% shooting, which suggests they can get into a decent offensive rhythm even when everything is not picture perfect. Defensively, they are allowing 111.8 points on 46.7% shooting, which again nudges games into that both teams can score territory rather than a grindy, defensive slog. From long range, the Suns are hitting 36.2% of their threes, and they are knocking down 80.1% of their free throws, which means any parade to the line tends to show up quickly on the scoreboard. They are letting opponents shoot 34.8% from deep and collecting 43.4 rebounds per night, which gives them a small edge on the glass and a bit more control over how many possessions each contest turns into. Put those two sets of numbers together and you get a picture that is not subtle. You have one team that allows plenty of clean looks and another that is efficient from the floor and strong at the line, plus an underdog that, while struggling, still scores enough and gives up enough to keep the pace of the game from completely collapsing. Even with injuries in play, the shooting percentages and scoring averages suggest enough offensive talent remains on the court for both sides to find their spots over 4 quarters. So when you step back and look at the overall rhythm these stats point toward, it is easy to imagine another matchup where points add up steadily rather than disappearing in long dry spells. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Los Angeles Clippers versus Utah Jazz. The Los Angeles Clippers and Utah Jazz square off on Tuesday at the Delta Center, and this one has a very clear mood to it already. Los Angeles comes in riding wins over the Lakers and Nets, with the Nuggets lurking next on the schedule, and they have taken 15 of their last 18 games, which is a serious heater by any standard. Utah is moving in the opposite direction, coming off losses to the Spurs and Heat, with the Warriors waiting next, and they have dropped 11 of their last 14 outings. But here is where it starts to get messy on the personnel side. The Clippers are still without Derrick Jones Jr., Bradley Beal, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, and both Kawhi Leonard and Chris Dunn are sitting on the injury report as questionable, so there is a bit of uncertainty hanging over their final rotation. The Jazz are still missing Lauri Markkanen, and they have already chosen to rest Keontae George, which tells you something about how they are approaching this stretch in the calendar. So you have one of the league's hottest teams possibly juggling a few pieces again, facing a group that is short-handed and struggling but still dangerous for pockets of a game. Even with those names out, the Clippers have been playing like a team that just trusts what it is doing right now. They rolled the Nets in a blowout on Sunday, never really letting Brooklyn off the mat, and they step into this matchup as clear road favorites against a Jazz team that just got drilled by 31 points by the Heat on Saturday. These two have seen each other twice already this season, and the most recent meeting, back on January 1st, finished with Los Angeles on top by a score of 118-101, which is a comfortable margin no matter how you slice it. That kind of recent history gives the visitors a mental edge because they do not have to imagine what success against this opponent looks like, they just have to replay it. Now, to be fair to Utah, their season has not been completely miserable for bettors. They are not picking up wins in the standings as often as they would like, but they are a profitable 25-21 against the spread, which means that even in defeat they often hang around long enough to reward people taking the points. It is not always pretty, and it rarely feels smooth, but there has been real value there at times. On the other side, the Clippers are not just winning games, they are covering numbers, cashing in 7 of their last 9, which lines up nicely with how sharp they have looked on the floor. Remember, that New Year's Day matchup between these two ended with Los Angeles winning by 17 points, and the overall arc of both teams has only exaggerated that gap since then. There is also the bigger story of this Clippers run to keep in mind. They have taken 8 of their last 9 and 15 of their last 18, and they head into this trip to Utah sitting at 21-24 after once being stuck at 6-21 earlier in the campaign. That is a massive swing, and 9 of those 15 wins have come by double digits, so when they get rolling they do not mind stretching things out. The earlier 118-101 beatdown of the Jazz fits that pattern, and there is not much to suggest the core dynamics have flipped since that meeting, even if the arena changes. Utah's home court is not exactly the most terrifying environment in the league right now, especially for a confident team that is used to imposing its style early and often. When you look at how the Jazz are handling this spot, it almost feels like they are circling the next game instead of this one. They are opening a back-to-back against one of the hottest squads in the association, and it really does feel like they are ready to punt this first night and keep their main push for a more winnable showdown with a struggling Warriors group on Wednesday. Keyonte George, sitting at 24.2 points per game, is being given the night off for load management. Jusuf Nurkic, who averages 11.2 points and 10.2 rebounds, is doubtful with an illness, and Lauri Markkanen, sitting on 27.9 points per game, has not played since January 12th because of conditioning. There is talk he could be back on Wednesday, but there is little sense in rushing him if George and Nurkic are not going to be out there anyway. It honestly looks like the home team is more focused on being fresh for Golden State than on throwing everything at Los Angeles here. With all that in mind, it is a bit surprising that this spread has not spilled into clear double-digit territory already. The Clippers have been a moneymaker over the last couple of weeks, and it has not exactly felt fluky. They are simply locked in on both ends most nights. We have seen them reward backing tickets again and again recently, and there is not much joy in stepping directly in front of a streak like that without a really good reason. If Markkanen and George were active, you could at least talk yourself into the Jazz having a path to hang around and sneak inside the number, but with both sitting out, that logic mostly disappears. Given how different these two teams look in form and intent right now, sticking with Los Angeles to grab another win and cover on the road makes a lot of sense. As our first pick for this matchup, the Los Angeles Clippers to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Clippers are averaging 112.6 points per game while shooting 47.6% from the field, which is efficient enough to keep them in a decent offensive groove most nights. They are giving up 113 points on 46.7% shooting, so they are not running around turning every game into a defensive clinic, but they are not exactly falling apart either. From beyond the arc, Los Angeles is knocking down 36.6% of its three-point attempts and hitting 84.8% at the free throw line, which is strong and suggests they cash in when they get to the stripe. They are allowing opponents to shoot 36.3% from deep and grabbing 40.7 rebounds per game, a mix that keeps things fairly balanced, with some outside looks conceded but the glass mostly controlled. Utah, on the other hand, leans heavily into high-scoring environments, whether they want to or not. The Jazz are putting up 119 points per game on 46.8% shooting, so they have real punch on the offensive end when shots are falling. Defensively, though, they are letting opponents score 127.8 points on 49.3% shooting, which opens the door to wild swings and big runs from the other side. They connect on 35% of their threes and 80.3% of their free throws, which keeps their own scoring fairly stable, and they allow 37.8% shooting from deep while pulling down 44 rebounds per contest. Those numbers together tell the story of games that can speed up quickly and feel a bit loose around the edges. Here is the wrinkle. With so many key Jazz players out or resting, there is a decent chance this matchup skews more toward patchwork lineups, odd rotations, and maybe a pace that is a bit clunkier than the raw averages suggest. The Clippers, if they grab control early like they did in that 118-101 meeting, may lean into more methodical possessions and shorter minutes for their main guys as the game wears on, which can quietly pull the total down compared to what the full season stats hint at. Blowout scripts often lead to longer half-court sets, more clock burning, and benches trading empty trips, even when the scoring profiles on paper look explosive. So while both teams bring some offense to the table, the actual shape of this particular game points toward a scoring output that lands lower than you might guess just from the season numbers. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them. So leave a comment down below and do let us know.